Green Goblin should not be the villain of MCU Spider-Man 4, or any of the trilogy for that matter. Okay, so I've been in a recent debate with myself over the use of the Green Goblin. He's Spider-Man's arch nemesis, and until not too long ago, I was hoping that at some point we'd actually get to see the MCU version of Norman Osborn go toe-to-toe with Tom Holland Spider-Man in the next trilogy. But the more I thought about it, the less I kind of wanted it to happen. The reason for this is because that I'm tired of Spider-Man franchises using the Green Goblin, and here's why. The Green Goblin is so overused. I don't get the obsession with using him in absolutely everything. I do get that he's Spider-Man's arch nemesis, and that he is the endgame for both Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And he's been involved in some of the most crucial Spider-Man stories in the comics, like the death of Gwen Stacy, and even the death of Spider-Man himself from the Ultimate Comics. But I feel as if Spider-Man media, especially the movies, need to stop using the Green Goblin, because the spectacle, the event, isn't the same anymore. If they're willing to throw Goblin around willy-nilly as a villain, the purpose of his character becomes less and less special every time he is used. Which is one of the main reasons as to why I don't want Tom Holland Spider-Man to have him as an antagonist in the new MCU Spider-Man trilogy. I think the fact that he's already fought a version of the Green Goblin in Spider-Man No Way Home is enough. The Green Goblin's purpose in a Spider-Man story is to cause Peter Parker as much grief as possible. His whole character is based around the idea of making Peter suffer as much as he can. If there's one villain that takes away from Peter's personal life more than any other, it is the Green Goblin. Peter Parker and Norman Osborn throughout history have an undoubtable rivalry. Examples of this is Gwen from the comics having a direct influence on Peter's death from the Ultimate Comics, like I mentioned before, making Mary Jane disappear in the 90s show, killing Gwen in TASM 2, and of course killing Aunt May in Spider-Man No Way Home. The Green Goblin curse of him directly affecting Peter's life in the most negative way possible has already been exhausted in No Way Home. And the more I think about him becoming the villain for the future trilogy with Tom Holland Spider-Man, the more I think that it will take away from the purpose of the Goblin and what he served to the story in Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it would be cool if Peter never had the chance to face Norman Osborn face to face ever again, even if it's the MCU version or not. Because now he has to live with the grief and the haunting that Norman Osborn from No Way Home gave to him. Although Peter having to handle a new Norman Osborn would create some really cool and in-depth character evaluations, I think bringing back Norman Osborn again would devalue what No Way Home did with the character and did with Tom Holland's Spider-Man character as well. Just leave Norman and the Goblin alone for just one single trilogy, just please. That way that when the Goblin eventually returns to the big screen again at some point down the line, either in a reboot or maybe as a villain of Miles Morales, his presence will be more impactful because of the time he has spent away from the big screen. Plus there are other characters that, if written correctly, could create a very lasting impact on the franchise and the character. And there are characters that have never been explored before, and they could be explored in a fun way for the new trilogy. I would love to see a story maybe where the villain is Spider-Man's love interest. Maybe it would be Black Cat, maybe it would be someone else. Black Cat has never appeared on the big screen either before, which I think is really bizarre, but could be a cool way to create a dynamic with Spider-Man and Peter Parker in Spider-Man 4. I would love to see someone maybe psychologically challenging for Spider-Man. Maybe someone like Sin Eater or the Chameleon. Them two villains have never been used either before. And no, Dimitri does not count. And if you want a villain that carries a heavy physical presence, you could introduce someone like the Scorpion and bring him back from Spider-Man Homecoming. I just think using the Goblin over and over again devalues the character, like I said before. I get that he's the endgame for every version of Peter Parker, but since we've already gotten the Goblin in No Way Home, we've gotten the Goblin in Spider-Man 1 and in TASM 2, and in multiple different cartoons, I think we should be done for a little while. I'm not saying that the Goblin can't appear ever again. He's definitely going to appear at some point in the Spider-Man Freshman Year series, or maybe beyond that, but I think in the movies especially, we should just stay away from the Green Goblin just for a little while. However, there have been rumors that Harry Osborne apparently might be appearing in MCU Spider-Man 4 in a little minor role. And if this is true, Where there's a Harry Osborne, there is always a Norman Osborn, which I really don't want. And if they do end up using Harry Osborne in the film, then I would really like it if Norman wasn't mentioned. But if he was, it would just be a throwaway line or a little cameo. However, the issue still remains that if Peter somehow knew someone called Harry Osborne, then I think it would be a little bit suspicious for him not to look into if his dad was the person that so happened to be the same guy that murdered his Aunt May. Anyway, what if Norman is in the new trilogy? Let's just ponder this question for just a second. What then? How would they handle him? How would they handle the character of Norman Osborn if he was to be a main character and a main antagonist of the brand new trilogy? I think if you were to throw Norman into the new trilogy and have him be built up to become the Goblin in the third film, I think I'd throw a twist on it to spice it up a bit. I'd actually take a page out of the Zeb Wells run of Spider-Man and make Norman a good guy and a really likable character, at least to begin with. I'd have him build up Oscorp as a super company throughout the trilogy, and I'd have him be such a positive character, at least in MCU Spider-Man 4 or 5, that the audience is rooting for Norman to succeed. But then by the end of the trilogy, have him descend into madness. I'd have Peter's relationship at first with him start out as sour, as Peter wouldn't know how to handle himself in front of the man that killed his aunt, or a variant for that matter. Then I'd have little signs and hints that Norman potentially could be going down a dark path. This would then force Peter to try and prevent Norman from becoming evil, as he sees where it is going, as the other Norman Osborn that he knew in his life went evil in Spider-Man No Way Home, until Peter fails in his attempts to do so, and Norman does eventually become the Green Goblin. I could also see that being a very cool and internal psychological battle, with Peter trying to make the right calls and the right decisions as to prevent Norman from becoming the Green Goblin. But then when Norman does eventually become the Goblin, I actually wouldn't have him be the classic Goblin. I'd have him become the giant raging monster Goblin from the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, simply because we've never seen that before, and it'd be cool to see Spider-Man fight someone like the Hulk on the big screen. Either way, I don't want the Green Goblin in the new MCU trilogy, because I just think he's overdone as a character, and his significance to Spider-Man and the impact that he makes on him can't be devalued and overlooked. So therefore, I think his presence in Spider-Man movies needs to be taken back a bit, especially after No Way Home, which was an incredible use of the character for Tom's Spider-Man. But he served his purpose, he's done his bit, let's just focus on other villains from this point on. But anyway, with that being said, that is it for today's video essay. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to hit the bell next to the subscribe button so you do not miss any more videos as soon as they come out on the channel. Also, make sure to subscribe to Lewis Fiction to get my fan fictions, and also make sure to subscribe to Lewis News so you can stay up to date with all the latest Spider-Man news. We cover everything from the games, movies, and the shows in short form format, so you don't have to sit down and watch like a 10-minute video explaining everything and takes like 8 minutes to get to the point. No, 60 seconds at the most. We do shorts, we explain the news, and then we go. On the left side of the screen, you can see a video that's been personally chosen for you based off other videos that you already enjoy, and on the right side of the screen, you can see my most recent upload. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video. Take care, and peace.